You've heard me previously discuss many of the evils of the eugenics movement of the 19th and 20th centuries on the Genesis Science Report. To summarize, eugenics was an idea of selective breeding of humans, sometimes called scientific racism. It was originally proposed by Charles Darwin's cousin, Francis Galton. He said, "What nature does blindly, slowly, and ruthlessly, man may do providently, quickly, and kindly." In other words, man can simply take the wheel of natural selection and weed out the useless parts of humanity and stop them from reproducing. But where did that lead? Well, this led to forced sterilization, racism, and many of the policies of Nazi Germany, including the final solution and the ongoing scourge of abortion. Now, these ideas spread like a mind virus in the thoughts of elites throughout the Western world. But these ideas, firmly rooted in Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, rejected the biblical foundations that are found in the book of Genesis. The Bible gives no such permission to society to sterilize the population. In fact, the first mandate in the book of Genesis is exactly the opposite. Mankind was told to be fruitful, to multiply on several occasions. Adam and Eve are given this first mandate in the garden, and then Noah is yet again told, be fruitful, multiply, after the flood. Well, the program of forced sterilization was in direct contradiction to the Word of God. It also ran counter to the doctrine that we have been created in God's image, which gives us the conviction that all human life is sacred. But let me be pointed. I suggest that the eugenics movement never died. That's right. This is part 2 of our discussion on eugenics. It seems that eugenics magically disappeared after the fall of Hitler's Germany, but that was only the most blatant form of eugenics that gave credence to the blasphemous perspective on human life. But let me suggest that the ideas of the eugenics movement are alive and well, and that it has actually gotten more traction now than at any time in history. Now, sure, it's evolved, if we could say that, but it's continuing to do damage the world over. And remember, this is simply the practical outworking of the theory of evolution in society today. I think I need to restate, Galton was Charles Darwin's cousin. These thoughts grew and germinated together, and their rotten fruit is from the same philosophical tree. The first way it lives on is in the legacy of Margaret Sanger, one of the foremost voices of the eugenics movement. She founded Planned Parenthood. Sanger said all sorts of disturbing things like, "We don't want the word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population." What? She favored the forced sterilization of those that she deemed unfit, and she actually gave a speech to the Ku Klux Klan, once writing, "The most merciful thing that the large family does to one of its infant members is to kill it." This woman's ideas have led to over 65 million supposed legal abortions or murders in the United States since 1973. And you have to ask yourself, is it a coincidence that many of Planned Parenthood's so-called clinics are in racial minority neighborhoods? But how else is this dream of sterilization being brought to life? Oh no, we're about to get politically incorrect. Enter the transgender hysteria of the 21st century. Now, it's not going to take long for those in the future to see how our mental current situation is actually changing society. It's actually degrading society as we know it. I'll have to state that the similarities to the eugenics movement that we're seeing today are truly startling. But in fact, there are even more disturbing elements of the current situation. Instead of forced sterilization, there's a social contagion that's being forced upon the minds of young people through curriculum, through social media, and through film. Truly, a psychological operation is being experimentally used against defenseless youth, encouraging them to question the most basic functions of their own biology. Young children are being brainwashed to think that, oh, I haven't been born in the right body. Well, even 10 years ago, this plague of lies would be relegated to the trash heap of bad science fiction, or more accurately, horror novels. But what are the results of this hysteria? Multitudes are being rendered unable to reproduce. They're actually being sterilized. Does that sound familiar? Has it ever occurred to you that the outcome is extraordinarily similar to the eugenics program? I mean, could this be eugenics' evil stepchild going on in society today? The result is social hysteria, which leads to irreversibly physically damaged children and young people. And those that undergo these surgeries, they won't be able to have their own children. Eugenics by another name. What a shame. Let me sum it up. Jesus himself spoke on this issue when he said, God created humankind, male and female, in the beginning. God knew what he was doing when he made each person. But these agenda-charged programs defy God's image and mock God's designs for males and females. Hold fast to the unchanging bedrock of the Word of God, because no matter what is thrown at us next, we will always be rooted and grounded in truth. So whether it's the value of life, whether it's fighting against pseudo-scientific racism, or bringing to light biological inconsistencies, we will commit to stand on ultimate truth. We will fight for the value of every person, because Jesus came to set each person free. Now it's time for us to take a quick commercial break, but we'll be right back to answer a question about how certain animals manage to migrate and settle on different continents following the events of the Great Flood, next on Genesis Science Report.